Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream of the LHGUL Week 1 reschedule of Omega Gaming Unleashed versus Team Aquila. I am Gordo, and I'm joined here by Rudude, will be your casters for tonight's games.
Yeah, exactly. Super excited to have you on the desk with us, Gordo. First time for everything and first time for a cast together, so I'm excited to see how this goes. Obviously, we've got here Omega Gaming Unleashed off the back of a rough week one, where they did get 2-0'd, unfortunately, but hoping here to bounce back versus Team Aquila, who, to all intents and purposes, are a very strong team coming in.
Absolutely, and as a reschedule, we're still counting this as Week 1, so we're not quite committed to the 0-2 record for Week 1 quite yet. Still have an opportunity to turn that around on a technical level. We can see the Twisted Fate just getting locked in by Team Aquila there.
Yeah, we are obviously in draft here, getting straight into it for you guys. No messing around here today. We've got Mordekaiser, Caitlin Graves bans from Aquila, Bard, Olaf Hecarim bans from Omega Gaming Unleashed, and the first pick Ash coming through something pretty standard, but something a little bit less standard here is the Misfortune bot lane for adjustment. Something that hasn't really seen too much play since a few long patches ago. But
Yeah, if I were to expect the misfortune from anybody in this draft, I would think it would be from Kysper. He's definitely somebody who's got a lot of experience on this fortune. Definitely something that he's been playing a lot of in solo queue, but going to be getting stolen away from him by adjustment for this draft.
yeah, and with the first pick Ash coming through, then they know that it was going to be safe. Hopefully, this Leona Misfortune lane definitely picked to assert some dominance early on, and I don't think that goes by any surprise by any means, but already Unleashed setting themselves up for what has the makings to be a very nice team fighting composition so far, with, Jarvan picking up the Cataclysm, Solar Flare in the middle of that on top of a bullet time. It's very simple and very straightforward what it looks like Unleashed want to do.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an easier composition to execute in those team fights. Here comes the Yasuo ban actually directed towards Princeton. He is quite the big Yasuo player. Not going to be seeing any of
Ooh.
that big playmaker from him today.
No, and the Malphite lock-in as well on top of that from Unleashed. They're just going ham for the all-in combination here, and I like this
That
from Aquila that they're picking up globals to sort of counter this, that they can pull Unleashed around the map and not let them get this team fight going.
Yeah, they're picking globals and they're also picking APs when we're really just seeing the Ashe and the Pantheon. This feels like a pick that was made assuming a Pantheon solo lane, which I guess I'm going to be proven wrong, and it is. I was about to suggest it could be Pantheon support, and we might be in for some more dangerous picks, but this might actually be either the Silas jungle or the Pantheon jungle.
Yeah, I'd tend toward Pantheon jungle, just stereotypically, but I couldn't tell you either way which of the champion pools it favors more so. Twisted Fate most likely going to go into this mid lane, and Silas in the top lane. We'll have a nice time stealing the Malphite ultimate. I like that Aquila drafted some AP to go against the Malphite, who typically wants to build a lot of armor.
Yeah, no, Silas a great pick into those kind of wombo team comps. He can steal away all those big AoE ultimates, of which Omega now has 5.
Hmm.
There's 5 great targets for ult stealing for Silas in this game. Definitely going to be excited to see what Prism's going to do with that.
Yeah, there's so much potential for well, I say so much potential for a great team fight to come through. It's going to be on Aquila to let Unleashed find these engages, but for Unleashed, it's incredibly straightforward what they want to do and how they want to accomplish it. Their win condition is reach 6 team fight and win the game off of just out strengthening them in a team fight, having the better champions in a 5v5 situation.
Yeah, for sure going to be looking for Omega to be grouping around those dragons, trying to force those early team fights.
Yeah, and you look across at Aquila as well. They've sort of drafted the opposite of that, so to speak. They've gone for Pantheon, who should be fine in a side lane. Similarly, Twisted Fate and Silas as well. Twisted Fate and Pantheon, both with those semi-global ultimates, will be able to impact any side lane if one of them sat mid lane, for example. So
Yeah,
it's going to be quite interesting to see how it goes and how it plays out here.
yeah, for sure going to be a lot of powerful pick opportunities coming out of Team Aquila in this game.
And I want to
All right.
focus. Oh, go on, go on.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I want to draw a little bit of focus now, just sort of dissecting some of the matchups really. I'm going to ask you, Gordo, what role do you main, just for a quick brief reference?
I've mained mid lane for a whole bunch of years, but have transitioned to jungle as I've gotten older and lost my hands.
As we come more, you want to become more of the thinker in the team and use the jungle pathing to your effectiveness. I see.
I like to imagine that's my strong suit, but I suppose we'll have to see.
Yeah, so we'll touch on those then, the mid lane and the jungle to start off with, because Orianna, at least for me, feels like a bit of a letdown R5 pick, though it does fit with the composition incredibly well. You know, this is sort of how a wombo combo is rounded out with an Orianna, but it feels like Ori is such a safe blind pick that taking her it somewhere else is a little bit of a waste here. I like that
Yeah,
they've
for
picked,
sure.
yeah, picked the
Yeah, it's
Twisted
not going
Fate.
to be able to really solo out the Twisted Fate or anything, but it is that is another place where I have to give some props to Team Aquila, taking away the Silas themselves for presumably either top lane or jungle. That is one of the best Twisted Fate counters you can get a hold of. On if you look at stats on solo queue or anything, a big classic counter to that pick is going to be the Silas for its ability to steal the ultimate and pressure it in lane.
For sure, and then you look at this jungle matchup here. For me, at least, I think the Jarvan does have a lot of priority early on, just in terms of what he can accomplish with his base damages in the early game, with the slight bits of armor penetration coming from his kit as well as the knockup. So I think there's definitely room for Simulcrum on this J4 to make something happen in the early game and get Unleashed off to a stable start, and start snowballing the game in their favor. But
Yeah, definitely one of the more straightforward jungle picks here. Versus whatever either the Silas or the Pantheon that they end up going with, it's definitely going to be uh, able to access ganks and able to access invades a lot more easily just through sheer stats and power.
Yeah, and I'd really like to see this Silas go into the top lane here. I think that it makes the most sense putting a Silas into the jungle, not being there for a very long time, since release probably, and Pantheon into a Malphite just feels pretty
Feels like
poor.
counterpicking yourself a little bit.
Exactly, yeah, and Aquila know this, Unleashed know this, so I think that we're under no pretenses as to where these are actually going to go as we transition now into the in-game draft here, or in client draft rather. We will start seeing which is going to be the top lane pickup for these sides.
Yeah, it should become pretty clear once we see what players are actually picking up each of these champions.
We're just waiting for the pick to come through. I mean, these guys do the pro draft, so they know where it's going. They're just sort of leaving us on edge, and it is as we anticipated. Wu Yun here going to pick up the Silas in the top lane. Madman with the Malphite match, and the J4 locking into that jungle role. Nothing out of the ordinary at all.
Yeah, definitely going to be a bit of a rough lane for the Madman up on that top side. It's just not going to have a lot of tools to harass out the Silas. Even the lanes that Malphite does win, he usually wants to be spamming those Qs and just whittling you down over time, and the Silas W is just going to give him far too much sustain for that.
Exactly, making any form of advantage in this top side, it's going to have to be off of an all-in. I'm probably going to have to be off of a gank with Simulcrum, using the Jarvan early on. We talked about the Silas should be winning this lane. We'll probably have the push as well, which does open up the opportunity for Jarvan to gank the top lane, but then also opens the opportunity for a counter gank from Zydeco, and similarly, if we get to the level 6 mark, Twisted Fate should be fairly free to roam versus this Orianna as well, so they will have to be careful, Unleashed, with where they go. But if they do their due diligence, they should be fine.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough itemization game for Malphite as well, just knowing that he's got a very strong AD burst champion coming at him from the jungle, but he has APs both in his own lane and being threatened from the Twisted Fate roams. So, going to be rough to find one stat to really protect him from everything like you would be able to in maybe a more optimal Malphite game.
For sure, expect abyssal mass to come through. Probably first item when you're up against a Silas. Don't know what sort of boots you'll probably want to go for. There's a lot of CC on Team Aquila's side, so likely going to be the Mercury Treads as well, which is specking incredibly hard into that magic resist very, very early on. And then, as you mentioned, if he manages to come up against this Pantheon, up against this Ashe at any point in a mid-game team fight, if he doesn't have those stats there to check himself with, he's just going to fall flat on his face as soon as he ulties in. If the appropriate follow-up isn't there, can easily get melted by an Ashe and Pantheon combo.
Yeah, no. There certainly will be opportunities this game for Omega to be able to take some team fights despite the individual lane matchups. The immobility of these champions like Twisted Fate and Ash in a team fight context going to make it really tough for them to escape if they get jumped on by something like this Jarvan, this Malphite, or this Leona.
Yeah, I like the point that you raise about the immobility really of Aquila's comp here, because if Samalka manages to land a knockup or land the Cataclysm on this Ash or this Twisted Fate, their only get out clause is going to be that flash. There's no Thresh to lantern them out. There's no innate ability to escape a Cataclysm. So if they're in a position to get Cataclysm, then they're in a position to get followed up on by all of the damage from the rest of Unleashed. I really like the Braum pickup from Two Pump actually, because it will reduce one of the ultis essentially. If he's able to either use the Unbreakable to block the Misfortune ult, or if he's able to use the Glacial Fissure to knock the Misfortune out of her ult. He's got two tools to reach the backline and mitigate the damage that the Misfortune's doing. It's just whether or not it becomes enough, because obviously Orianna, Orianna, Leona, and Malphite all coming in as well. We're talking about an ideal team fight right here. But if those ultimates all sync up, I don't think an Unbreakable is going to be enough to save them.
Yeah, definitely going to want to keep a close eye on those flash timers for Prism and Kysper because it's going to be absolutely critical for them to be able to stay alive in these team fights.
Exactly, and if Kysper really isn't able to sustain himself and keep himself alive, that wouldn't look like the end of the world necessarily, because we look across the rest of Aquila. They've got Twisted Fate throwing out stun cards. Silas going to be an absolute nuisance in the backline, just constantly healing, constantly dishing out damage with his auto attacks, things like that. And Pantheon as well, looking to be probably an assassin as we go later and later into this game. Unleashed are going to have to check themselves and check their positioning, because they're by no means safe unless they pull the trigger perfectly.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's going to about do it for our champion select breakdown. We're going to take another short break while we get loaded into the game, and then we will be right back with the action.
2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the LHGUL Week 1 match between the Omega Gaming Unleashed and Team Aquila. We are getting right into Game 1 here.
Yeah, for sure. I'm Rudude on the desk here once again, joined by Gordo for the first cast of first on a Friday night. We're here today. Hope you all have had a good week, and no better way to be chilling out, relaxing than watching some nice League of Legends action here on the Omega Gaming Esports Twitch channel.
Yeah, absolutely. First cast for this league, first cast on this night. Definitely a lot of firsts for me. I'm excited to get into it.
For sure, and already seeing some standard level ones, nothing particularly out of the ordinary, with just a 5-point across both sides.
Yeah,
Standard.
nobody looking to get into any shenanigans too early. It's got a couple of really powerful level 1 supports. Nobody really wants to end up face checking into one of them.
No, face checking into a Braum is a surefire way to net yourself a quick death right there. And I'm actually really interested by these top lane item starts coming off, sort of transitioning a little bit here. The Malphite starting with the Doran's Ring, and
He's got the Doran's Ring. He's got the Arcane Comet. He's ready to brawl with this Sylas.
Yeah, and the Sylas looks like he's ready to brawl back as well.
All right, he dodges the first E. I consider that a victory. He's got the shield that's gonna regenerate. That's an A+ to the Madman for the first trade.
Yeah, I mean, perfect play, and now going in again. This is going to be pretty reminiscent of how all trades go. In terms of just
it's
Madman
it's
throws
only
a
gonna
shot.
get worse from the Malphite from here on out. So he's got to savor it while he can.
For sure, I think that I'm assuming that we've got mana flow banned in this top lane here. And along with Arcane Comet, you need to be careful with how you're using it, because you can run very low on mana very, very quickly as Malphite, just spamming seismic shards over and over again. So Madman will need to be a little bit cognizant of that fact when he's throwing out these Qs to harass with. Something that I found...
the Doran's Ring will keep him up a little bit, but definitely gotta be watching out on his levels.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that a lot of top laners that I've listened to speak about Malphite like to go Doran Shield, because if you go Doran Shield essentially versus a Malphite, the Q poke really just gets mitigated entirely, and there's no world where the Malphite can poke you down. You can see here that Madman has sort of a HP advantage, and Woohyun here has picked up, chewed through one of his potions at least, so has Madman, but a slight HP advantage in his favour, not to mention the fact that there's also the Fleet Footwork slightly sustaining up the Sylas as well.
Yeah, once he gets some more levels in that W, I think he'll be able to ignore the Malphite poke a little bit more heavily, but early on here, he's going to feel it.
For sure, and I want to sort of also draw more attention towards this bot lane, because this Misfortune is by no means something that is standard in the meta, and I'll be interested to see if the rest of Unleashed can try and play around it as well a little bit. They've drafted a team fighting comp, and if this Misfortune doesn't get off the ground, then feels like a large component of it really falls on its face quite early on. You see Adjustment has picked up the Cull start as well, so wants to get to that item break point a lot faster. We'll also be interested to see whether or not he goes for a BF crit style build, or whether he rushes for some more lethality style items.
Oh, Woohyun has left the game. He's disconnected. Are we going to get the pause? There's the pause.
Oh no. Yeah, I mean, there's pretty much no what's the word I'm looking for? No way that we're uncertain that this is a disconnect.
Yeah, no, this is he's not doing that on purpose.
This isn't a new strategy.
Yeah, no, we don't have Chrono Break available either, so this is gonna be a rough recall for Woohyun.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure what they're gonna have to do about this. It's definitely one way of generating an advantage.
Yeah, it's certainly it's on the board. It's not going anywhere.
I'm wondering, are they talking in the in-game chat? Because I have that turned off for the stream, and I'm wondering if you've got access to some messages.
I do have it. They've called out that top did DC. Other than that, they haven't discussed anything.
Okay. Well, I'm interested to see how this resolves itself at the very least. But right now, we're in a little bit of a paused situation here, and if we take quick stock of the game, you know, we're 4 minutes in, nothing tremendous has happened, and so far everybody's keeping pace.
Yeah, for sure. Nobody's gotten off any early recalls. Nobody's really gone for too heavy of trading so far in this lane. And we get the reconnect message for Wu Yu, and we got to assume that they'll be checking in and readying up shortly on this.
Yeah, hopefully. And then once we get logged back in, I'm gonna probably ask you to just pause at 4 minutes if that's okay. Hopefully, we'll see this top lane play resolve itself within the next 4 seconds.
Yeah.
And then when we pause at 4 minutes, we'll give it another little bit to buffer out and make it so that we're not unsynced casting, because that is probably
Yeah,
the
for
worst
sure.
viewing
That would.
experience that anybody
Yeah,
could
no.
ask for.
All right, there are R's in the chat. They are getting ready to unpause, so keep your fingers at the ready for that pause button.
Yeah, and it's an interesting start out. Hopefully, we'll see what happens here.
3, 2, 1. All right. Both flashes blown, and I'm at 4 minutes.
Perfect. We see the play resolve itself, both of them flash away. And then, yeah, we're going to sit here for maybe 10-15 seconds, let the buffers go out. I apologise to everybody at home, but being an EU producer, EU caster, you know, I say this every single time we have to do this, but you guys understand that being so far away and Riot's client can lag one person behind more so than the other. So we have to do this to just make sure that me and Gordo are both on the same wavelength, both giving you the best broadcast experience that we can. And we do appreciate your patience here in these awkward circumstances. But with the little disclaimer out of the way, I'm more than willing to get going again.
All right, I'm ready as well.
So
You're
we'll
welcome
go
to count us down.
3, 2, 1 on pause.
All right, and we're right back into it. All right, Wu Yun not opting to take the recall though. He's gonna muscle through this unfortunate circumstance and just try to keep his lane against Malphite going.
Yeah, and engage bot.
Oh, big all-in coming in from bot lane. There's gonna be stuns going on to 2-pump and a little bit of jungle interaction coming in from Simulacrum here, but he's gonna get forced back. This Braum is able to exert a lot of pressure by applying his passive to each of these champions.
Yeah, and the cleanse burned there by Kaisper really could mean a lot as we get into the next couple minutes here, because with no cleanser up for himself means that he's very susceptible to an engage from Vikro on this Leona. Something that we've not seen particularly in this lane so far was an engage, but as soon as he goes in, gets the summoner spell, so I have to be cognizant and see whether or not the flash gets burned or if he gets punished for not having that summoner spell. And you know, already
that's
we can
the classic
see...
Leona level 3. Just waiting until she gets all 3 of her abilities, and that's all she needs to start diving in onto people, CCing them, and trying to produce some advantages in that lane. And just like that, OGU coming in, getting this dragon started up.
Yeah, and they pull Madman down from the top lane as well. Awkward reset, but pulling down the Malphite to make sure that they are able to secure it. The level 4 Malphite probably not providing too much danger. We see he sacrificed a lot in his top lane to make that work.
Yeah, what this means to me is that OGU is just completely dedicated to this team fight dragon plan. They're going to be I would expect to see the Madman brought down here for every dragon from here on out. They're just going to try to brute force the soul if they can with their superior team fight ultimates, and hopefully at that point develop an insurmountable lead over their opponents.
6
and just like that, we got it all in coming from Wu Yu, and he's already stolen the Malphite ultimate before he's level 6. He's going all in, going to land this airborne onto him, and that's definitely going to be a kill coming in for Wu Yu here. First blood goes over to the blue team.
Yeah, and we're immediately seeing the repercussions of that play. Pulling the Madman down to help out secure the Drake means that he loses so much experience in the top lane, and Wu Yu, with the stolen Malphite ulti, is able to pick up the solo kill, and he's actually going to make him miss a fair chunk of minions under the turret here as well. Look at that big wave crashing underneath. The kind of minion might save a few melees for the Madman, but he's going to struggle definitely to keep anywhere near relevant now in this top lane.
Yeah, it really feels almost unfair that Silas can steal something from you that you don't even have yet, but...
That's very true. I hadn't considered that. Level 5 Malphite
no.
to a level 7 Silas now. That's not a fun lane at the minute.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a 30 CS lead coming in for that Silas. He's going to recall here, probably going to pick up, I would assume, yep, a lost chapter. He's probably going to be itemizing towards that Super Soaker this game, going to be trying to slow down targets, make sure that he can land his E follow-up.
Yeah, for sure. That's the new age Silas build when you take the fleet footwork, taking the GLP as well, just getting yourself more in range. You don't necessarily need the proto belt these days. If you take the GLP, does a very similar job. If they do the same thing differently, obviously one gets you in range, the other one brings the target closer to you, just with slowing their movement speed. But we are reaching that level 6 mark now on the majority of Omega Gaming Unleashed. I need to see them make a play. I wouldn't be surprised to see, and we already see it in fact, the swap up from the bot lane. Adjustment took a recall, got his BF sword, is now in the top side of the map, looking hopefully to get this Herald, start getting the neutral objectives even further in their favour.
Yeah, it almost looks like they're setting up for a dive here, but I would be certainly wary about this as Silas is already at level 7 against some of these targets.
Yeah, and Zykodol Zydeco rather, caught out.
All right, here you go. Here's an opportunity. They do have level 6 on this Jarvan and not level 6 on anything else. There's the Cataclysm coming out to lock down Zydeco here. He has already blown the flash, so he can't get away. He's going to get flashed on by Adjustment and picked up here. Wuyun now going in, trying to use that power to pick up some kills. He picks up Smalkrim, but now is going to be forced down. Orianna ult onto Prism, going to force him back. He has got to run away here. That is going to be a lost fight for OGU, and a nice 2-for-1 picked up by OGU. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Madman using his ulti to display dominance and clear the wave down on the bottom side of the map, knowing that he's not going to be needed at all. But yeah, big little pickup for the Unleashed side there. 2 kills onto Adjustment, onto this Misfortune. He's going to feel really good. The rotation definitely paying off. They don't net themselves the Herald just yet, which is probably what they moved up for. But they'll be happy to get 2 kills onto their Misfortune, who at this stage in the game is definitely their primary carry.
Yeah, definitely going to be making a lot of progress towards picking up that Essence Reaver. Once she gets that down, probably in time for the next Dragon. That's certainly going to be a lot of threat coming out of Adjustment on this Misfortune pick.
For sure, and we see the play. They try to rotate up to net the Herald. They recognize that they don't have the power or the resources to secure the Herald as well. And with Drake spawning in about a minute, knowing that they have to swap back down, they're going to be happy enough just with what with the advantages that they garnered in the top side of the map to begin to now set up for this Dragon, which is, it feels like, where they're looking to win from. Smalkrim.
Absolutely, it's going to be spawning up here pretty soon. Smalkrim actually goes in here. He knows that he has the Orianna supporting him on the side. They're going to both be slowed and trying to run away, and it's just going to be a disengage here. Nobody's quite willing to commit further. They don't have their ultimates ready on Omega Gaming's side quite yet, but some violence in the top lane.
Yeah, the top lane fight is just going to be going back and forth here. No TPs available for either top laner as we broach 20 seconds left on this Dragon. And Unleashed, their ults now back up. Obviously didn't have them for the short engagement that we had in the river, but the 3-man roam squad into the enemy jungle to try and clear out some vision, clear out the wards, and get themselves a little bit of an advantage. Adjustment has to be careful here. He's in a 2v1 situation.
Yeah, that also is going to be the Rift Herald picked up for Zydeco. It looks like he's going to come out, try to pick up a first turret here, try to get all 5 plates down on the top side. Going to be a huge gold advantage coming in for Wuyun on this Silas. He is going to be a huge threat coming into these soon-to-be happening fights.
Yeah, and I really like how Aquila have used the Rift Herald here. One of my things as a colour caster is just enjoying seeing teams use the Rift Herald to kill the last 2 plates, recognizing that they had the opportunity to not only take to take the time out and take down the first 3 plates and then get the last 2 with the Herald. Clean macro play from Aquila, and very much a fan of seeing that come out.
Yeah, no, and can always ignore those bonus resistances when Rift Herald does true damage. That is going to be another Dragon picked up by Omega Gaming. They are now going to be up 2-0, but this third Dragon, this is where the questions start happening. This is where general knowledge dictates that they should start contesting on these Dragons coming the third one. It is going to be the ocean map.
Exactly.
So it's definitely going to be a valuable soul.
For sure, and we've got Unleashed here. They've got themselves the neutral objectives, but we look at the gold lead right now. Aquila are 2,000 gold up, and I like that they've recognized what Unleashed want to do, which is secure neutral objectives. And every time, Unleashed have made it incredibly telegraphed what they're trying to go for. It looks like Aquila are just changing up their game plan and just doing something on the opposite side of the map. That time they take Herald and they take all of the top turret for themselves. Previously, they conceded the Drake, but they got a massive advantage in the top lane out of Madman's teleport having to come back up to the top side so he didn't fall even further behind. So Unleashed here sticking to their game plan, and similarly Aquila sticking to theirs. It still remains to see which one will yield the greatest fruit, as we see Malcolm
Here
dashing
comes
in.
OGU coming on in. They're going to be picking up onto Zydeco here, trying to do as much damage as possible. That's the Jarvan Cataclysm stolen away by Wuyun. Keep an eye out for this here. That's the MF ultimate down. They do pick up Zydeco, but that's so many ultimates used already. Now here comes a full health Wuyun trying to do as much damage as he can, but he's going to get pushed back. That's going to be a 1-for-1 so far. They flash forward and use the Orianna to try to pick him up, and they do. That's 2 more kills picked up onto Adjustment, and now 2Pump is left alone. He's going to be forced to back out. That is a 3-for-1 in the favor of Omega Gaming Unleashed.
Yeah, and just as we talk about which team comp will succeed more so, Unleashed come out with a nice team fight in the river there, using their ults to catch out one member, and then with the Shockwave as well, managing to pick up another 2. The stolen Cataclysm from Woohyun doing more harm than good there, locking both himself and I believe the Twisted Fate in to get Shockwaved. Really didn't feel too good, and the double tap through with Adjustment on this Misfortune, able to pick up another kill with that that second bounce through. Obviously the increased damage from killing the first champion. Really nice little pick up there for himself. 4-1 on this Misfortune right now. 4-0 rather.
And Zydeco's flash just came back up. He's getting punished by being picked off again when he still has flash down from the last time he was engaged on, and that's going to lead to a 0-2 start on this Pantheon.
Yeah, and that's not what you want to see on Pantheon. Is known for being an early game champion and being able to make the plays happen distinctly early on. And it really been shut down. Yes, his map movements have been fine, and they've been able to, take that Herald as we mentioned. But in terms of champion kills, hasn't been there. But Princeton could be caught here.
No, just going to be being walked on by Prism. They know that the Pantheon ultimate is going to come in anyway. Nowhere near where Princeton actually was as he gets hit by that gold card, but just feeling like he needs to make plays happen on this pick.
Yeah, maybe feeling a little bit under pressure here, as we've mentioned that he's not really done too much. Now Vikro down here. Prism was in a little bit of danger, but Vikro going to clear the control ward, and that gives him enough time to walk on away. Arrow down mid lane, Adjustment.
And here we go, Adjustment's going to get hit on by this Silas E, going to be doing a lot of damage, but here comes Simulacrum up with the Cataclysm, trying to lock them down, going to force out another flash, and they're just going to divide themselves again.
Yeah, so both summoners burned by Adjustment on this Misfortune. That is going to be huge as we go into this next minute of gameplay where the Ocean Drake is spawning. And wisely, of course, Adjustment saves his ultimate, but Simulacrum isn't going to have his available at the very start of this team fight that's about to, you'd assume, ensue. 50 seconds left on the Ocean Drake, and Zydeco on the wrong side of the map. Simulacrum goes on in.
Once again, lucky that he doesn't have that Cataclysm up, because that might have been another pick here. Wuyun and his friends going to come and try to force OGU away from this. There's another dragon coming up here, and like we predicted, this third dragon looks like it might be the setup for the first major team fight of this game.
Yeah, exactly, and it's a good time to take stock of items here. The Twisted Fate, been farming the entire game, has Rod of Ages and a Sheen. Full warrior for the Pantheon, but Madman might be just looking to go in. Destiny
It's going to be Prism popping the Twisted Fate ultimate. Nowhere exactly to teleport for a cutoff. He's going into the blue pit, going to throw over a stun onto the Leona. Full engage onto Vicro here, but they're re-engaged from Mad onto the rest of them, dealing tons of damage with that Misfortune ultimate. Fights going on all over the place. Simulacrum steals the ultimate from the Malphite, does tons of damage, picks up several targets on the backside. OGU is just getting crushed in this team fight as Wuyun continues the engage onto Simulacrum, but he manages to flag and drag himself out of there.
Yeah, and it's what we talked about in the Champion Select. So many good ultimates for Woohyun to steal. Picks up the stolen Malphite ulti, just dashes in on the backline of Princeton and Adjustment with no summoner spells is unable to dish out the damage. Vikro doing his best to try and peel the carries, but he just has too much damage with that stolen Malphite ult and this completed GLP.
Yeah, no, and Madman goes for the full engage there, lands the ultimate onto multiple targets exactly like you want to, is able to line up the bullet time for Adjustment, but it's just not enough resources coming out of the rest of the team. Yes, Adjustment is really far ahead, but Madman's there with still no completed items. Simulacrum is there with no Jarvan ultimate, and they're just out-muscled by the strength of the blue side team.
Yeah, exactly, and it felt like Unleashed really tried to force that there. I think they only really took down the Braum, I believe, in the engagement. And they found a nice ultimate engage onto the Braum, but Ashe was untouched, and we saw obviously that the Silas was able to take over the team fight in the back. Really well played from Team Aquila to space themselves out appropriately so that they didn't end up getting clumped up and end up falling.
Yeah, for sure there. And with that, Team Aquila going to be feeling pretty good about their status in this game. And there's just going to continue to be fighting between these top laners. I don't think we need to commentate on that too much. But Omega,
dive.
without the dragon available, actually this is going to be a dive onto Madman here. They're going with 3 men here underneath the turret. Madman able to actually use the Malphite ultimate to keep them knocked up, but the damage immune going to come out of the Pantheon. That's going to be a successful, clean dive for Team Aquila. Traded off with for the Rift Herald on the other side.
Yeah, and Unleash taking a note out of the Aquila book here. If they go for a play bot lane, we'll take the Herald. Definitely wise, and it depends what they can get with this Herald as to whether or not it's going to be worth it. Because Aquila look like they're going to get a tier 1 turret bot lane as well as the kill onto the Madman. So that's a lot of gold netted for themselves. But with Simulacrum here, looks like he probably wants to put down this Herald and trade turrets 1 for 1.
Yeah, and you know, if they're able to force back, there's only 3 members of Aquila here defending. It is a 4v3 with the Herald, so if they're able to get this charge through successfully, they might be able to force a second one, but they're getting nervous. They can't see Wu Yun anymore. They know he has the TP up, so they're just going to back off.
Yeah, wisely so as well. Pinned now underneath their mid-tier 1 turret. The entire time, by the way, Prism in the top side, generating more gold for himself, pushing that top lane into the tier 2 turret and going for another wave as well now. Will finally be answered by Princeton. And so much of this gold lead probably actually just coming from the mid lane. You know, both mid laners even on CS, but that Twisted Fate passive actually doing work.
Adjustment's actually going to be coming in here onto Kaisberg, got off by Simulacrum, and that's going to be a big pickup here, and maybe even more onto 2-Pump. The Cataclysm comes in here, it's 3v1 onto this poor Braum. He can't do anything to protect himself, and it's going to be another double kill onto Adjustment. He's 6-1-2 on this pick. He is looking to try to carry this game.
Yeah, and it needs to be him to do so, as well as just here fight bot lane.
Now, Wu Yun landing yet another one. He's getting back up from his Pantheon here, but this time Madman able to blow the Malphite ultimate early, try to put as much distance between himself and his opponents as possible, and is able to get away.
Yes, a nice little disengage from the Madman there, and you know, 2 kills going the way of Unleashed feels nice, but they don't really get anything from it. It is just the 2 kills and nothing else to speak of. No neutral objectives, no objectives in general, and Aquila
this is going to be a teleport. They're going in on a Princeton here. That's going to be a gold card onto him, followed by the follow-up chain. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. They're going to be picking up Princeton, but actually he turns it around with the command shockwave, going to be forcing them back, but he's stuck in the crevice now. He's stuck up there. He's not going to be able to get out, and Wu Yun's going to be able to pick him up.
Yeah, a lot of damage traded back by Princeton there, but Prism with the stun cards and Wu Hyun's support feels confident enough to step up, and definitely rightly so. Walks up, gets the kill onto a slightly overextended Orianna there. Doesn't burn the flash to, you know, waste the cooldown, but always feels a little bit bad when you get caught overstepping like that. TP committed, ultimate from Twisted Fate committed, but they get the kill, so definitely worth.
Yeah, definitely a valiant effort by Princeton there, landing the 2-man ultimate, staying alive far longer than I thought he would, but just not able to close out and make the trade happen. Luckily, as you said, not blowing that flash, going to have all of his resources available now that he's respawned.
Exactly, and as we reach 20 minutes now, Baron on the table, still feels like either of these teams have the potential to maybe win out on a team fight. Obviously, Unleashed are further behind in gold, but how easy it is for them to
Malcolm here
execute.
coming in with a bit of a face check, going to have to flag and drag himself out.
Yeah, for sure. You know, you don't want to sit in there and keep getting stat checked by the Braum. The Braum's definitely going to do too much damage, and Princeton could be caught again down bot.
Princeton's got the Pantheon ultimate in behind him. He's stuck on the wrong side of town, and he's got nowhere left to go. But actually, a TP coming in from, I think that's Madman. They're going to try to fight this. They land the 2-man Orianna ultimate, but Princeton is blown up immediately. Now Madman's alone in a 1v4. He's just going to get focused down onto. The Ashalt goes forward, able to hit onto Adjustment. Adjustment is trying to channel the ultimate, but it's just too late. It's a 3v5, and it is going to be absolutely demolished here. Triple kill over to Zydeco. He's back in this game. And you just got to assume Team Aquila going to pick up this dragon and are now convincingly in the lead.
For sure. Now 4,000 gold to the good there. Princeton once again overstepping the limits of where he should be with the vision that he'd got. The rest of Aquila stepping up and managing to secure themselves 3-4 kills. The Ocean Dragon as well. Likely going to translate this into a mid-tier 1 turret and cement themselves in the driver's seat firmly right now.
It's a valiant effort when you save the flash and get a 2-man ultimate the first time you get caught out, but starting to lose a little bit of the credit once it happens the second time in a row. It's definitely just not able to keep himself far back enough to prevent from getting caught out by Team Aquila here, and they're going to punish every time.
No, for sure, and we saw how easy it was for Princeton, or rather for Adjustment to die right there. Got the flash from the Pantheon, I believe, to stun him, and then just got melted by Twisted Fate and Silas jumping on top as well. Aquila very aware of where the win condition is for Omega Gaming Unleashed, knowing that this misfortune is the damage threat that they need to remove, and they're doing a good job of it. You know, that team fight right there was a grade A example of how strong their dive is as well.
Yeah, certainly, and so you can see more item completions coming through. We can see the advantage of the team as a whole coming across in a few places. We can see Twisted Fate has already got 2 items down, while Princeton is still stuck on 1. You can see that Malphite just managing to finish up his first item, the Abyssal Mask, but he's once again down 1 item to 2 against the Leandri's Torment and Hextech GLP out of Wulyun. And that's just where a lot of these differences are going to be, and that's going to make the difference in these team fights.
Exactly, you know, we talked about how Malphite really wants to build armor. Azaza hasn't really got too much of it to speak of at the minute. Yes, the Tabbies and the Shroud have come through, but Spec's mainly into that magic resist, and we're at the point where Ashe deals considerable amounts of damage, and Smalcom might be face checking.
Yeah, no, Xylo going to get caught in here, going to get picked up by Vicro and Simulacrum, but just not dealing enough damage here. The invulnerability is making so much of a difference, and that's going to be a huge Zac ult onto a huge Ashe ult onto Simulacrum, and they're going to be chasing him down. He's going to get picked up here, and once again, the Malphite ult has to be blown defensively. They're trying to pick out Twisted Fate here on the other side. He might be caught a little bit out of dodge, but a huge 4-man Malphite ultimate out of Wulyun manages to pick up the entire OGU roster. They're just going to be cleaning them up here. That's the end of the fight right there and then. Triple kill once again over to LHGUL, a 5-for-0 ace coming out here.
An absolute slaughter in the top jungle for Team Aquila, and it just feels so bad to watch Adjustment try and play out these team fights, because the perfect engage comes through. They find 2 people in the Cataclysm, 2 people with the Solar Flare, but Adjustment knows that he can never ulti. Wuhyun once again steals another ult to make the Misfortune's life a misery, and in the end, the 4-man knock-up with the stolen Unstoppable Force spells doom for Unleashed, and that's going to be the Baron for Team Aquila.
Yeah, Simulacrum picks up 2 in the Jarvan ultimate, but it's LHGUL and 2-Pump on this Pantheon and this Braum. So when they get locked in the Cataclysm, it's not actually the end for them. They get to just go shields up and tank as much as they can. And Wuhyun's going to get forced out of the jungle here, looking like he might be overstaying a little bit, but he should just be able to walk this one out just fine. No Cataclysm coming out of Simulacrum here. No, but the chase is continuing on. Lots of movement speed out of this Misfortune, and it's going to be a shutdown for Princeton. That's really good gold to be getting back in the pockets of OGU if they want to come back in this game.
Definitely, and it's the first step on a long road to recovery for Unleashed. They're still 8,000 gold behind, so by no means back in it with that kill. Does you know, obviously yield a lot of gold for themselves, and they're going to be quite happy with that Simulacrum.
Oh, Simulacrum coming out. He's going to steal away that Scuttle Crab. Still has his eyes on the prize. Still knows that there's going to be a dragon spawning here soon. Still knows that that's the best team win con that his team can hope for.
Exactly, and if they do find that miracle team fight, Adjustment now has 2 items on the Misfortune. Definitely feels as though if they can get all of the stars to align for them, they could win a team fight. But you can see it from just the last 20 minutes of gameplay that Aquila have been so good at not allowing that to happen for Unleashed, allowing for enough spacing to keep themselves safe.
And you can see from the itemization out of Aquila that they are prepared for that eventuality. They have the Guardian Angel built onto LHGUL, and they have stopwatches on Wuhyun, Kaisper, and 2-Pump. It's going to be so difficult, even if you do catch these people, to actually burst them out with your teamfight ultimates.
For sure, and you know, not just that, 2-Pump as well. Picked up the Redemption, picked up the Locket, you know, these... I call them anti-Karthus items, but they're anti-teamfight items, anti-wombo combo. As soon as 2-Pump sees a Malphite flying in, he presses Locket, presses Redemption, and then all of a sudden the Unleashed engage needs to be so much stronger than it previously needed to be because of the amount of HP that he's giving.
And you gotta love Unleashed here, sticking to the game plan, setting up the Fnatic Death Brush, and they're all revealed by the Twisted Fate ultimate right away. The Dream is dead, and now they're just gonna be getting engaged on by this Pantheon here. The Ashe ultimate goes wide, but it might not matter. Madman coming in with an engage here onto Wuhyun, but he's got no backup. Instead, it's going to be a 5v1 for Prism on the other side. It's going to be a trade 1-for-1 so far. Huge Cataclysm coming out of Simulacrum, followed up by the Misfortune ultimate, but he just gets dived on by Wuhyun. He's gonna get picked up here. It is 4 versus 2. There is no chance here for OGU to be able to turn this game around. Vicro's gonna get melted down. down, the rest of the team's going to get melted down, and that's going to likely be the game here.
Yes, that was a really well played team fight by Team Aquila. You know, it looked good for Unleashed at some point, but then just the flash Woohoo and ulti once again. This stolen Malphite ult doing so much work in the backline. Adjustment and Princeton just unable to get anywhere near the right amount of damage off in this team fight. The Cataclysm came down, so did the bullet time, but that wasn't enough stars for the win here. Nexus turret's being attacked from Aquila, TP coming through as well.
Yeah, no, definitely a valiant effort in the last team fight, but here we go. There might actually be one more as everybody else is coming up here. Death timers are still pretty low. Wu Yun is alone. He's stuck in his Zonias, and he's just going to get picked up from the stasis here. Big regen out of his W, but it's not going to be enough. Now the follow-up engage out of the Madman onto 2Pump. 2Pump taking a lot of damage here. He might not be able to get out of here, and Leona following up onto Prism, forcing the flash out. It might just be a 1-for-0 as AQULA knows they need to force out. Team Aquila, once again, going to be forced back. Micro looking to pick up some more here on the Zydeco. That's the Flash Zenith blade onto them, followed up by the Orianna ultimate. Beautiful execution there. Picked up by Princeton, 2 kills to 0. Prism now maybe going to be able to get a pick onto Smalkram, but the turret's a little too scary. He's going to back away. Zydeco on the other side, getting still chased by Vicro here. Here comes another Zenith Blade, another hit, followed up by the slow from the Misfortune, but Zydeco is going to force them away with the Blast Plant. He's trying to run away, fall back to his Twisted Fate, maybe pick up Smalkram here. Twisted Fate channeling the Destiny Gate, going to go try to pick him up here, but he is not able to get away. And now, OGU back onto their Dragon, going to pick up their third of the game.
But look at the base here.
Oh, here we go. Zydeco's looking for the backdoor here. Gonna be interrupted only by the Madman, but the Madman does not quite have enough damage here, but actually getting slowed down so much by this Frozen Heart and just getting picked off on the other side. Prism is also here to try to finish the game, but he's not going to be able to do so. Maybe a little bit too cheesy out of Team Aquila there.
It got close there. Nexus at about a quarter HP. And Unleash managed to keep themselves alive in this game. But it's by no means convincing. They managed to net themselves a fight just as Aquila are knocking on the Nexus turrets. But it's super close right now. One misstep from Unleashed and the game is over. They have no Nexus turrets. They have one inhibitor down. And short of a Destiny going awry, that could easily just spell the end of the game with the Twisted Fate ulti.
Yeah, no, and a question as old as time itself. Is it worth it to trade both Nexus turrets for the third Drake? And in this case, it might be pretty close to it. That is going to be the only win condition that I can see for OGU in this game, is going to be able to pick up that Ocean Soul and maybe be able to give them enough regen and team fight power to be able to turn it back around, even with this massive gold deficit. But that's going to require one more Dragon, and that fight is going to be hard to take with no Nexus turrets.
No, it really is, and it's going to be on the rest of Unleashed to just sort of wait out this inhibitor right now, because if the inhibitor respawns, then the backdoor potential becomes way more difficult for Aquila. Until that time, though, if the rest of Unleashed step out of the base, they know that they're just going to get Pantheon Twisted Fate ulted into the base and lose the game. So, you know, the answer to the question, is anything worth trading for your Nexus? Always going to be no, so you can't go for any missteps.
Yeah, no,
outside the base.
gotta leave 2 soldiers back in the base. You can see here, as they're aware that this Baron's going to be spawning. They know Smalkram needs to come out here and go for a steal, but they also know that Adjustment and Princeton need to just be hanging out next to the Nexus, making sure nobody tries to sneak anything.
Yeah, and Smalkram has to essentially face check every single brush. Likely going to use the flag to try and check these brushes, but it's so dangerous for him to go anywhere. So dangerous for anybody of Unleashed to walk forward, and now Vico and Princeton stepping out. You can see the entire time, Madman and Adjustment still just in the base here.
Alright, here we go. Vicro and Smalkram both have pink wards here to throw over the wall, but here comes the backdoor attempt. It's going to be the Twisted Fate, but they're ready for it. Twisted Fate and Pantheon here onto this base, but the teleport comes back. It's another pickup by Princeton, and once again, has this team overstepped? Has Team Aquila prevented themselves from getting another win here early on by overpressing onto the Nexus? Once again, Smalkram here going to get caught out by the rest of Team Aquila, though. They are ready to try to take this Baron, and they are ready to try to take this game, even though their preferred win method doesn't seem to be working out.
No, I mean, the attempted backdoors was obviously very readable, as Adjustment and the Madman were there to come back. Princeton as well, expending the teleport to help out as well. 2 for 1 overall, so a net favourable trade for Unleashed. And they don't lose the Baron either. So Malcolm spends enough time running them around the top side of the map for them to not feel comfortable trying to take it. And now we're at that point where the inhibitor is not far off of respawning. We've got 1 minute 40 left on this Ocean Soul. And now if Unleashed can find the fight, we start to think maybe they can generate some neutral objectives for themselves. Maybe there's a way into this game, but it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, no, you got to assume this is the point where Aquila stops trying to go for the backdoor.
Yeah.
At this point they're in such a good position to just win the game straight up playing standard. You got to assume that that's what they're going to go for.
You have to. That you just have to think that this is one of those games where you've tried your trolley endings a couple of times and it's not worked out. So you just think, right, okay, what was working before? It was team fighting them, and even though we're not supposed to win team fighting them, we're finding the avenues to do so. So we'll just go back to doing that, and you can see that here with them setting up topside vision as well. The Baron is definitely open for the taking here.
No, you guys remember when we were winning every team fight and taking every objective? Let's go back to that.
Yeah.
And that's probably the game plan that's going to let us close out this game.
You have to think so, and it feels pretty rough as Unleashed, because now Aquila aren't throwing, the game once again becomes a lot more difficult.
Aquila, they got the whole team here for the Baron this time, and it just you can't help but feel hopeless. But here's the team fight opportunity. The Zenith Blade going to be landing on a Woohoo, and he might be caught out here. He pops the Zonias, but now he's surrounded by 5 people. So Malcolm is alone in the Baron pit trying to fight them off, but he's going to go down. So much sustain coming out of Woohoo, and he survives for so long, but he does go down in the end. It's a 1-for-1, but Aquila is still on the Baron. They pick it up. That's going to be the Orianna ultimate hitting only on a 2-pump. He's going to be melted down here, but a huge Braum ultimate possibly locks him down for long enough. Adjustment is 1v1 versus Kaisper, and he's not going to be able to do it. Now LHGUL is on to the rest of them. He's going to be picking them up. Vicro also going to go down here. That is a double kill. It is a 2v1 situation now. LHGUL thinks he can do it. He thinks he can get onto Princeton and finish him off, but he might not be able to. He's going to feel forced back here, but he's got backup here from Prism. Prism is going to be coming in, landing the gold card onto this Malphite. Malphite is now just getting melted through by this mixture of AP and AD damage. He's forced the ultimate away. Why didn't he ultimate in the team fight? What happened to that? And that's going to be the end of the fight. It's a 3-for-3.
That is the question, Gordo. Where was the Malphite ulti? I respect the fact that he's trying to stay away from the Sylas so that the Sylas can't steal it. But they give up so much in terms of just the raw teamfight power that they lose the Baron. They're now going to lose Ocean Drake as well, which puts now Aquila at soul point. The neutrals going in the favor of Aquila. Unleashed live to fight another day because they don't lose the teamfight too horrendously. But they now are staring down Baroned up minions, and they're going to have to defend their base with their lives.
Yeah, luckily only 2 Baron buffs on Team Aquila, on LHGUL and on Prism there, so they can't be using it in all 3 lanes simultaneously until they get onto the Nexus. But that is going to be just a pittance in comparison to the disadvantage that they're still forced into by the fact that anyone has this Baron at all, by the fact that they just lost another dragon. We are going to max dragons this game, everybody. 7 dragons going to be spawned prior to Elder. And once again, the Soul, we've been talking about it all game, and it's still on the table for both teams, more so than ever.
Yeah, and right now, as you mentioned, the next Drake is Soul. There is no getting around it. One of these teams is going to walk away with the Ocean Soul for themselves. The quick thing that I'd point out toward that is that Unleashed are slightly more well-suited to deal with it, and that is just because they have 1 set of Grievous Wounds. That is all that I'm basing that off of. Obviously, trying to cut through a lot of pick, and we could see a fight here, though. I don't want to...
Alright, that's the Malphite ultimate stolen away from Woohoo, and all this effort spent trying to keep away from the Sylas and prevent him from picking up the Malphite ultimate, and it's all for naught. He's got it now, and it almost feels like the optimal strategy is to try to wait it out.
Yeah, and at this point, they're at level 17. The Sylas ult stands up for a while. Destiny pops.
Twisted Fate. Alright, just using it to keep vision on everybody, know where everybody is, make sure that nobody is getting picked up by a sneaky Malphite. But here comes the Cataclysm, followed up by the Malphite ultimate, followed up by the Orianna ultimate, and Kaisper is destroyed immediately. This is exactly what you hope for. But here comes Woohoo, and he's in the back with the Malphite ultimate. He goes into the Zonias, and they're trying to fight this regardless of their missing 80 carry. Tons of damage coming out from everybody, and tons of CC coming out of the Braum. They're trying to pick up Madman. Madman's going to go down first. Now on to Vicro. A hit with the Sylas chain. It's going to be taking lots of damage here as well. Everybody's forced back into the base. It's a double kill for LHGUL, and now it is just this team, it's just Team Aquila on the Nexus. They're going to close out the game, and that's going to be it.
And Unleashed find the engage, they find the AD carry, but at the cost of the Nexus, essentially. They find the engage into the backline, but the damage coming back through that stolen Malphite ult doing so much work for the entire game. manages to pick up adjustment once again in the backline, and with no ADC, there's no sustained damage. Yes, Princeton has 3 items, but it's just nowhere near enough to anywhere near compensate for the amount that adjustment would have been doing.
Yeah, no, it was a long and hard-fought battle. Omega putting up as much of a fight as they could in this game, where they were on the back foot nearly the entire game. But just not quite able to pull it out here. Finally, you got to think it was kind of over once the Nexus turrets were both down. But
Mm.
surviving that long and keeping alive, you got to give props to them, and you got to get excited for game two.
Exactly. The Unleashed did a really good job at stalling out the game that looked over to all intensive purposes, and I will say that Aquila kind of giving them a little bit of a lifeline, saying, "Oh, we'll try and backdoor you a couple of times, go for the style points." But once that had elapsed, Aquila dominated the get back in the driver's seat and go hard again.
Yeah, for sure. So we are going to go to a short break pretty soon here, and we'll be
Yeah.
back for game two.